Hi, I'm Dr. Richard O'Connor. I'm a retired anesthesiologist and I've had an interest in UFOs since 1988. I've put together a slideshow here that I hope will help people who have an interest in UFOs, but maybe don't have the time to review all the new information that's coming out about them. This slideshow will help you get caught up. I've condensed probably 25 hours of different video uh, presentations from Newsmax, News Nation, different sources, and compress them in clips that I hope that you'll learn something from here today. This first slide that I start with shows this painting that was painted by an artist named Eric de Gelder 315 years ago, and up in the top we see this disc-shaped object emitting four beams of collimated light or some kind of energy down on the scene below, which is presumably the baptism of John the Baptist. Um, in years past, this disc above was referred to as the Holy Spirit. Today, we have a lot more information. We know a lot more about technology. And I'm not going to comment on this a lot, but just to say that given what we know today, I think that it's reasonable to think that this may have been a UFO sighting. If that's the case, then perhaps a lot of the um, stories that have been handed down through our religious texts and such uh, might be interpreted differently today. Things such as the strange behavior of the Star of Bethlehem, which did not really behave like any kind of celestial object we know of today, much less back then. And also maybe something like the virgin birth of Jesus. Now that we know about abductions, extraterrestrial or alien abductions, and what apparently is some sort of a genetics program that may have been going on for quite some time. Maybe uh, the pregnancy of the Virgin Mary could be explained in a different way than has been traditionally thought. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that, but it certainly gives us a lot of reason to think about these sorts of topics and the conundrum that these objects are putting before us today. This is Dr. Gary Nolan talking at the SALT conference in 2023.
And today I'm very excited to welcome Dr. Gary Nolan with us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Today we are going to talk about aliens. And Gary, well, before we get into this topic, I figure it would be helpful to qualify yourself because you are going to make some very bold statements here today. And I would love for people to understand why they should believe you. And so perhaps can you give a little bit of your background?
Sure. So I'm a professor in the Department of Pathology at Stanford. The primary research work in my lab is cancer immunology, virology. We also do a lot of work in biothreats. So we worked with Ebola, Zika, COVID when it was a big problem. Um, and primarily the work in my lab is the development of instrumentation and algorithms to understand the complexity of the immune system in cancer. And in the process of doing that, we've created any of a number of technologies, which we spun out into companies. It's now 9 companies, 2 of them are on NASDAQ. And these immunology instruments are used pretty much around the world in almost any advanced immunology.
And I'm curious, do you believe that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited planet Earth?
I think you can go a step further. It hasn't just visited, it's been here a long time and it's still here. And it has basically, people talk about the wow signal looking for extraterrestrial intelligence. The wow signal is that people see it on an almost regular basis. That's the communication that's already here.
And that statement seems so incredible that it's tough to believe, right? Like, people hear that, and maybe a lot of people here hear that, and they don't believe it. And so I'm curious, if you had to assign a probability to that statement that you believe extraterrestrial intelligence has visited this planet, what probability did you assign?
100%. And that's not just my opinion. I mean, look, the National Defense Appropriation Act passed last year, signed by Biden in December. 30 pages of that is the establishment of an unidentified aerial phenomenon office, the establishment of looking into the harm that's happened to any of a number of the individuals, going back to 1945 and looking at the disinformation and misinformation that has been basically articulated over the decades. 12 US senators have signed on to a document that basically says we want the information. The establishment of an office, Arrow, in the Department of Defense, has 25 people working in it right now. And what's their goal? Collecting the information across all of the U.S. Department of Defense intelligence offices, and collation of that into a uniform format for the very first time, and provision of that then to Congress, the creation of a whistleblowers program specifically that allows people from within, who, I'm going to say this, who've been working on the reverse engineering programs, reverse engineering of objects, so that they can come in and break their oaths, but specifically just to talk to Congress and give that information in classified settings. And that the most recent one that happened was just last weekend, and it created quite a hornet's nest in Washington.
Thank you, Dr. Nolan. I really appreciate the courage, your time that you put into this, all of the appearances that you've made in interviews, trying to awaken our people to this new reality. So thank you very much. This is Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who's now retired from the Navy. And let's hear what he has to say.
Tim Gallaudet has spent a career serving his country. First in the Navy, working in areas like aircraft carrier combat operations and assisting Navy SEAL teams during counter-terrorism operations, according to his official biography. More recently, he served as acting administrator of the Commerce Department's agency, which forecasts weather and monitors ocean and atmospheric conditions, where he analysed the science behind weather and other phenomena. So, Tim, you've said publicly that you think UFOs, UAPs, are the story of the century. Now, I happen to agree with you, but why do you say that?
Oh, absolutely. We're being visited by non-human intelligence with technology we really don't understand, and with intentions we don't understand at all either. And this is just one of those great big questions. Are we alone or not? And we're learning we're not.
Now, that really does surprise me. You're that former very high-ranking flag officer in the US Navy to actually say you're stating categorically that you believe NHI, non-human intelligence, are real.
Absolutely, I do.
Why do you say that?
Well, for a number of reasons that have been coming out. Congress has been informed and legislation and passed legislation, for example, to establish a DoD office to look at it. They've been the same, NASA, they're the same UAP study team. Now we know from the UAP hearing this summer that there are crash retrieval programs. And I have 100% confidence that the testimony by David Brush and the other witnesses is accurate.
Wow, that's a big thing for you to say that, isn't it?
It is. It's astonishing. And that's why I wrote that article in The Hill. I don't understand why more people are not interested in this. I'm mystified the lack of intellectual curiosity.
You know, the moment for me was the Schumer Amendment, when the Senate majority, Chuck Schumer, put into proposed legislation language referring to non-human intelligence over 20 times.
Exactly. And that's the statement. And Congress doesn't act at that level without information.
Clearly, you believe there's a cover-up.
Yes.
Why are they covering it up? I mean, you're probably one of the more highly cleared public officials from the military, past serving, who's basically come out publicly and said, you think this is real? Why do you think there is this cover-up? What are they concealing?
Well, sure. This is technology we're still trying to learn about, and it could give us an advantage in any military conflict. So that's a good reason to not disclose the nature of the technology. And I think for the foreseeable future, we don't want to release and disclose all of the technology that we've recovered. However, I think it's about time that we do disclose that we are in contact with human intelligence. That's what needs to be put out there in the public.
I totally agree, Mr. Gallaudet or Admiral Gallaudet. And this is something that mystifies me as well, is how come more people are not turning on to this and realizing what this means to our society, to our civilization. So thank you for your courage in coming forward. So this is the couple of paragraphs that I've taken out of the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023. You'll note there that this was submitted by several more people than just Chuck Schumer. We have also the names of Rounds, Rubio, Gillibrand, Young, and Heinrich as senators who were co-sponsors of this legislation. And I'll just let you read there the different these two different paragraphs. But I would like to point out that now, under the Trump administration, Marco Rubio is now our U.S. Secretary of State. And the job of the Secretary of State is to advise, negotiate, and sorry, I can't see the other one there, but they're deeply involved in U.S. foreign policy. And so hopefully Mr. Rubio will have an interest in developing foreign policies that help our country in our relationships with non-human intelligence and these races of beings that are here with us. It's also significant that very recently Representative Mike Turner was fired basically as the chairman of the House of Representatives Intel Committee, which is very significant as well because Mr. Turner was instrumental as one of two individuals who helped block the passage of this UAP Disclosure Act in its entirety as it should have been. And so now that he's out of the way, perhaps we'll be able to make some progress with the new chairman of the House Intel Committee. Here's something that many of you have probably seen before, but it's worth repeating. This is Colonel David Grush testifying at the July 26, 2023 congressional hearing.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Well, SCIF is a secret compartmented information facility where they discuss classified information within our government. So when you hear the term SCIF, that's what they're referring to, a room that's been cleaned of any bugs and a place where people can say things that they don't want you and I to hear. So this is a interview with Dr. James T. Lakatsky, who was the director of the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Applications Program from 2007 until possibly the present. I don't know exactly what Dr. Lakatsky's up to at this point, but he's been deeply involved in these programs to reverse engineer recovered alien technologies. This book that you can order, or you can check it out from the Jesse A. Marcel Library, is titled Inside the Government's Covert UFO Program, Initial Revelations. And Lukatsky is one of the authors, along with George Knapp and Colm Kelleher. And let me play this for you, and you can hear what Dr. Lukatsky, how he admits that these programs are real, that we have recovered craft, etc.
For our audience that's listening, George just dropped an atom bomb because it was dropped in the book. So audience is just listening. I'm going to read you something. Beginning of chapter 9. At the conclusion of a 2011 meeting in the Capitol building with a U.S. senator and an agency undersecretary, Lukatsky, the only one of the book's authors present, posed a question. But this is where it gets good. He stated, you, Dr. Lukatsky, that the United States was in possession of a craft of unknown origin and had successfully gained access to its interior. This craft had a streamlined configuration suitable for aerodynamic flight, but no intakes, exhaust, wings, or control surfaces. In fact, it appeared not to have an engine, fuel tanks, or fuel. Now, there's a next part, which I'll read in a minute, but what this is you're officially allowed to tell us that the United States government has in its possession a craft of unknown origin, and we're able to access it inside. Is that correct?
The wording that you read is correct. You're going beyond the wording.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you, did that happen? And is it true? And it's true.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, you're telling us, you told us, because you were allowed to tell us, that our government has a UFO in its possession and has been able to access the inside of it, right?
Yes.
Well,
I
that's
was allowed- I was allowed to tell you. Let me show the back of the book. This is.
I know. But hold on. Just when you translate,
Yeah,
George.
all right, let's try another time. How do we know it's a craft and not a doorstop? We accessed it. It has no engine. It has no wings. No fuel. It doesn't. We don't know that it travels. Do we know it's a craft, or it's just a rock?
George, you're going into the further discussion that occurred that day.
All right.
We can't go there. But let me tell you, we're going to try to cover that in the future. But it's delicate. It makes it.
Why is it delicate?
I described in here. Look,
Why is it delicate? Why is this topic that the United States government has a UFO in its possession and we've been reverse engineering it? You've done it, admitted it. Why is it delicate?
the details. I'll use the term. I won't use the term adversary, competitor, as the way we describe. We are surrounded, maybe not surrounded, but hopefully not so, by our enemies. And our enemies, you can be sure they're listening to this show right now. You can be sure that they were monitoring also. You can be sure that perhaps they had employees, hopefully not in but in the contractor part, that were giving out information. I know that. So the thing is we can't say anything more than what we've been approved to say.
We all get that, Dr. Lukatsky. You know, I'm sure every American citizen is sensitive to the issues about national security and what can be revealed and what shouldn't be revealed. But I think almost every citizen agrees that the time for telling us that we're not alone in the universe, that our planet has been visited by extraterrestrial races and still is, that they're interfacing with our civilization on an almost daily basis. I think all of those things, the time has come to say that it's appropriate to tell the people about this. So please be as straightforward with us as you can be in the future. As far as the tech is concerned, I wonder what kind of technology is being reverse engineered from the people in our government that are and in private aerospace that are working on this, and especially what kind of weapons are they looking at trying to develop from this. Hopefully, they're weapons that will make nuclear weapons obsolete, because I would love to see those things gone. Thank you, Dr. Lukatsky. Colonel Carl Nell.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming this evening. I'm glad that we are the final talk of this year's SALT event. And I'm very excited to discuss what I consider to be one of the most consequential questions of our lifetime, which is, are we alone in the universe? And I'm very lucky to have Carl Nell here joining me for this conversation. Carl, thank you so much for coming. And Anthony and AJ over at SALT, thank you so much for hosting this. So Carl, maybe to begin, can you share a little bit about your background, who you are, and perhaps why people should care what you say?
Sure. Well, thanks, Alex. It's a pleasure and honor to be here, and it's a fantastic event. And I'm glad to see a lot of folks that stuck it out to the end for this talk. So I was fortunate. I had a 4-year ROTC scholarship to Penn. I graduated with a degree in electrical engineering. Sent me overseas to do Singapore engineering projects. So I did a lot of strategic comm projects in Europe. I ended up working in Army Space Command. I commanded a satellite ground station, war trace to the Joint Chiefs. I spent some time at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The Army ultimately sent me to get a master's in mechanical engineering, a master's in strategic studies, graduate work in computer science. I was on track to stay in, but I decided that I wanted to pursue more of a technical career. So I got out and ended up working at Bell Labs, which was a fantastic place. Unfortunately, I was there during the trivestiture that folks may be familiar with, where the company got split up. I left Bell Labs, ended up working at Lockheed Missiles and Space. I worked at Northrop Grumman. I've ran strategic technology programs in the defense industry, worked for a lot of the 3-letter agencies, ultimately was a deputy CTO for a $2 billion company. I was a vice president general manager of a Northern Virginia-based R&D firm. I stayed in the military, in the reserve. I commanded at every grade level through brigade. I was fortunate to stand up the Army's newest expeditionary MI brigade. I was the deputy chief of staff for a combatant command. Ultimately, this experience sort of combined to give me the opportunity to come in and advise Army Futures Command, the largest reorganization in the Army Reserve since really 1973, on how the Army could be more effective. And my last assignment was called the UAP Task Force, which maybe is the most apropos for this discussion.
And so, Carl, here's the $1 million question. Do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet?
Right. So non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that.
And so, Carl, that is quite a bold statement. I'm wondering, and I'm curious, how confident are you that that is true?
There's zero doubt.
And Carl, what evidence have you seen? What was the moment where you developed this level of conviction? Because what you're saying is extremely consequential and very important. And I know that a lot of people here, even perhaps, may not believe that statement.
Yeah. Well, probably a better way to ask that is, how can the folks in the audience come to the, a common understanding of what this phenomenon is? And so there's sort of two tracks here. One is from first principles, and another is actually from the data. So let's take a look at the data. So we can look at some folks that have very high level access to information. Like Paul Hellyer, who was the defense chief for Canada, has come out and said the same thing. We can look at Tom Eshed, the head of Israel's, or former head of Israel's Space Force, has said the same thing. Chris Mellon, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Intel, SAPCO, has essentially said the same thing. Lou Elizondo has said the same thing. David Rush has said the same thing. David Rush cleared for presidentially level material. So you're looking at people that are in a position to know this, and they're telling you the same thing.
So that's amazing. He says there is zero doubt that a non-human intelligence is interacting with our planet and our people. I love that clip, and it's just so remarkable to hear a man with all of these accomplishments that this guy's had in his life say that to us. This reference of his to Haim Eshed, this man who was a brigadier general, or is a brigadier general in the Israeli IDF, and who was the head of the Israeli Space Force, has said some incredible things, even going as far as to suggest that the United States has a relationship with something called the Galactic Federation, and that our U.S. military has been doing joint exercises with an alien race at bases on Mars. So, I mean, those statements, those are just so incredibly out there, but maybe true. You know, we've been told so little about what's going on that what Haim Eshed has told us may in fact be true. So this is a book that was recently published, written by Luis Elizondo, who was the former U.S. Army senior intelligence officer who was the director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program in the Pentagon. I wrote up here in the notes, vindication. Well, why is this vindication? For me, it's vindication because a friend of mine who was a medical colleague, a very trusted medical colleague and a close personal friend, was Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr. And he was present at the Roswell UFO crash site, or at least not at the site, but his father brought home materials that were recovered from that crash, brought them home, showed them to my friend and medical colleague, Dr. Jesse A. Marcel Jr., and then he took them back to Walker Army Airfield and delivered those materials to his superiors. Now, I will never accept that Dr. Marcel lied to me, that he lied to many other members of the medical staff of St. Peter's Hospital in Helena, who we all worked with, or that he lied to you, the public, the world public, about what happened at Roswell. He was there. He was a firsthand eyewitness. He was one of the first whistleblowers about the Roswell event. And I am absolutely certain that it happened just as he said it did. He handled those materials. He closely inspected those materials. He told me this straight to my face. And I just will never accept our government's lies about mogul balloons and crash test dummies and all the other crap that they've tried to unload on the American public about what happened at Roswell. So I wish Dr. Marcel was still alive today to read this book, because at several places in the book, Elizondo confirms that a UFO crashed near Roswell in 1947, and that debris was recovered, including, he says, 4 bodies of non-human beings. He also says in that book that President Trump has been informed about all of this. So if we don't get UFO disclosure under President Trump, that's on him, because according to Luis Elizondo, he knows all about it. So I recommend that you read this book.
government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes.
So there we go. Like you heard it in 8 seconds, Luis Elizondo just told you the truth. Our government has programs in place to reverse engineer recovered alien craft, and that's what they're doing. Thank you, Luis Elizondo, for putting that out there. This is a film that I want you to see because it gives you some idea of the people that we're going to hear from next, who were all involved in the special operations elite, what they call tier one warriors, really, for our nation in the U.S. Air Force Special Warfare Division. These men and women that serve in that capacity are referred to as the 1% of the 1% within our U.S. military. So have a listen to what these candidates for U.S. Air Force Special Warfare have to go through and what kind of people they are.
Special warfare is a special branch of the Department of Defense as well as the Air Force in its entirety. We are the kind of people and airmen that they send out to do those special missions that nobody may be able to do or be willing to do. That's what special warfare does. They bring a different type of capability using all the spectrums of the warfare to the fight. The 4 jobs that we have that compile special warfare are combat control, pararescue, TACP, and SR.
The role of a special reconnaissance operator is to answer intelligence and information requirements for the Air Force, things like electronic warfare, cyber warfare, and being able to insert and act as a ISR, which is intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance asset on the ground instead of an
Pararescue is basically the ground support for the Air Force that helps the air power do their jobs. So if we have a helicopter that goes down, Humvee that gets rolled over, we have somebody stuck on a mountain, hurricane rescues, anything like that, we are like basically the contingency plan. Anywhere in the world we can save somebody. Combat controllers are special tactics operators who expertly employ into amphibious and non-amphibious environments. They're able to land an airstrip, survey it, simultaneously be conducting close air support, bringing in special operations as well as massive contingencies and coalition forces onto the battlefield. Sending one combat controller into airspace can change the entire theater in a country's landscape itself.
As a TACP, you're advising ground commanders of other system services, mostly the Army, on the best way to deploy with fixed wing, rotary wing, artillery, and to call in airstrikes or close air support.
From a personality standpoint, we have them all. We have people that are extroverts, introverts. Like the personalities don't really matter in this career field. It's how you train. It is a competitive atmosphere, and how you really compete is being a good teammate, being a good person at the end of the day, having integrity, having the motivation to be here and never quitting.
As special warfare airmen, we are embedded with these other system services for the simple reason that we are the premier force and experts on air power.
Because they support all branches for special operations defense, whatever system service they're a part of, we need to be trained to their tactics, techniques, and procedures, as well as their standard operating procedures. That joint aspect of the job is huge. Having those relationships with the Army and with the Navy and other special operations, like, is what builds those great teams that can go out and do the mission well.
While it is hard, it is rewarding at the same time, because you get to be a part of a community that a lot of people can't say they would be able to accomplish. You're doing something that 1% of the 1% are doing.
If you have a very good reason why you want to be a special operator, nothing will stop you. The best part about it is that once you are here at Special Warfare, we give you the tools to succeed. It's really up to you to rise to the top.
Well, you know, what I would say to the people that have been involved in these programs to recover these these craft of non-human intelligence are that in the film there, we just heard that you're all good people and that you have integrity. And so when you've been asked in the past to not reveal what you know about these programs to recover these craft, I understand that our national security depends on the work that's being done to try to understand these things. But withholding that information that we're not alone in the universe, that we're experiencing contact with non-human intelligence and with their technology, I just don't see how you can justify withholding that kind of information away from the rest of our human family. That's important stuff. And I think a lot of the times these non-disclosure agreements that you men and women have been asked to sign and abide by have been under duress. You know, you've been uh, basically threatened with your careers and livelihood if you come out with this. In my opinion, all of those things that are obtained under duress are just illegal, and you shouldn't have to feel obliged to abide by them. And I'm grateful that Congress and people like Ross Coulthart, Stephen Greer are giving you now avenues that you can go to with your information. And I think you can be fairly reassured that it's becoming safe to do so. So I implore any of you that know anything about these programs and your participation in them to go to Congress, go to Stephen Greer, go to Ross Coulthart, maybe go to Jeremy Corbell or George Knapp and talk to them about it and start getting this out into the public domain. This is something that is relevant to what you're going to hear in the next slides. And so let's listen to what's going on with research on telepathy.
My son said to me, I can hear thoughts. And I said, impossible. And he said to me, you don't get the kind of gifts that I have if you lie.
Let's please multiply two numbers and see if he gets it.
Okay, what is it?
9. 0. Unbelievable.
1.
Maybe shuffle again, Dr. Powell.
Something's got the plus too. I was wondering, because I was looking at the tweetable
Yeah.
I saw it for those. Wow.
What is this phenomena happening? Why are his mind and my mind completely connected?
I knew that a lot of people would think, boy, Diane's got off the that. But that's the risk any scientist takes when they challenge the current paradigm.
Joining us today to shed some light, Dr. Diane Powell.
I'm working with children who have been reported by a parent to be able to read their mind. The data was so compelling and accurate that I had to follow it, even though I knew I was risking my scientific reputation. I started testing them, and I found that they were exceedingly accurate.
What is the next? No.
After the medical board took my license away, I had to prove my sanity. And once I did, I said, I'm going to prove that ESP was real.
After Tarrant, he's done these QEEG scans to see what's going on.
The biggest overall finding is really this increase of activation across all the brain waves. If there was no change, I would definitely be skeptical.
You can show a consistent pattern, particularly. That's how science changes. You cannot focus.
We want answers, like where does it come from? I want to know how and what am I supposed to do?
All great. We are far more powerful than we can imagine, and the implications are huge for humanity and the planet.
So I encourage you to visit that website, thetelepathytapes.com. They ask for $10 donations to access some of the material, especially some of the videos that they've done of working with these children. These are remarkable, remarkable videos. And, you know, I think that they're making great inroads into proving through science, through the scientific method, what we've all suspected, and that is that that telepathy is something that's real. Certainly, I have experienced one time a telepathic message that came to me as I was sitting right here at this desk in this same chair before this same computer. And it was very distinct, very clear. So it's not hard for me to grasp that what they're studying there is real and it's important. And it plays very definitely a role in what we're going to hear about next. This is a new whistleblower, UFO whistleblower named Jacob Barber.
My name is Jacob Barber, and for the last 30 years, I've worked for the U.S. government and its private partners in both an official capacity as an enlisted man in the United States Air Force and in an unofficial capacity for the broader intelligence community as a contractor. Over the last 3 decades, my work has been very diverse and has included the recovery of downed UAP non-human origin. I am pleased to share that as of a couple weeks ago, I have fulfilled a promise to our friend David Grush by getting myself into a skiff with Congress, and I have provided top secret SCI testimony on the subject matter of the appeal. With this behind us, I'm pleased to be at a place where I can share information with the public. The type of information I can share will be limited by my DOPSA restrictions and personal restrictions I have set in order to protect the privacy and quality of life of my friends, family, colleagues. So with that, let's talk.
So tell me about the moment when you realized involved in the retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time we recovered something that was non-human in origin, that it was precisely what we our communications changed, our communications process in this was modified. It was also clear to everyone that what we were dealing with was something that was unexpected, it was expected. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human. How close did you get? Well, I was a helicopter pilot and I can operate with 150 foot to 200 foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg.
How large was the object?
I would say approximately 20 feet, plus or minus a little bit, about the size of a large SUV.
Did it have any seams?
No.
What? And it was pure white.
It was like pearly white, like a metallic pearly white. That's how I could assess.
I mean, what you're describing sounds like something out of a TV show.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, there's an interesting sequence on the sky. So like it brought daylight.
So you actually saw it in the sky before?
No, not this one. But in our new venture, we've already begun work. We're capturing craft flying in the sky.
How did you know that that egg-shaped object was non-human in origin?
Well, visually, after seeing all kinds of things in my past, it was clearly something that was ridiculously looking. It's inconsistent with the. I can also tell you with the reaction by my team, where it's was atypical. We changed our modified entire process for recovery that night. Our communication process changed. We all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary. In addition to that, it has also been verified by me, by high-ranking members of the UAP task force, that what we recovered that night was in fact known NHI craft.
What is a psionic?
A psionic person is someone with the predisposition for extral temporal, you could say, abilities and sensitivities. Someone who has a fantastic intuition.
What did you discover?
Psionics for in the program. In the program, there was certainly a desire to explore the idea that perhaps UAP could be summoned, could be communicated with, could be controlled, and could be persuaded to land, all by deploying people with psionic abilities to interface and communicate with the UAP.
And did you see that happen?
Yes, I did.
And it's funny
hearing a lead soldier. It's nothing.
love.
So, that's what's not there for the strength.
So let's go through this.
When a psionic operator engages with technology, using their mind, something like meditation, I need to preface this by saying this is stuff that I've come to know recently. The night that I had this experience, there was another talking from that was a psionist.
And they were also working that night.
And do you think it was them that had attracted the object in the first place?
And so, how did the object come to land? I think it was invited to land by the psionist. Instead of voice.
How they make the objects land?
No.
So I had to tell you that the weapon system just I know this from the research. I know my pulse microwave that we used to bring down some of these guys. How often was it done where the objects would land? How often was it done that we're contributing to? Yeah, I can't tell you how often. I can tell you that they are brought down both ways. And they are invited to land by the psionics team. Other times they are invited in by the psionics team. But then HPMs, which are high-powered microwave weapons, are deployed and they have an effect where they can disrupt the flight and having obviously locked up to when they're based on trip, sometimes it's not. Force then. When they did the traction of the objects, was it purely psychic? Was the machinery? So there's 5 components to our operation.
That's a lot of your questions. So the first component is a calling phase.
Between man and machine-based psionic systems. So we have vision-based systems, which are psionic assets. It's like a site
connection through intuition.
Contractor. Invite it.
The other is a machine-based calling system, which uses
many systems. I'm not going to go into detail about it. You refer to them to dog or a mover. The UAP, certain types
can be specifically attracted or responsive to our machine-based calling systems.
Then from there, once you're involved in the communication, now the psionics can have a dual role because there is communication phase to do a lot of data collection. So it's verifying that what we are
seeing is something tangible, also that it is responding to our efforts. So we might invite it to move left or right, or to
The implication of what you're saying is that this intelligence that's behind
whatever it is seems willing to shoot. Yeah. Yeah, I think it ultimately is working for us. And
it is common to talk about what we're doing.
Even weapons is a donation of this. And even when we deploy it, when there's a combined operation with psionics to
a machine-based team,
that's last second brought it. When it's a psionic operations or something. I'm just exploring this with you. The implications are that
there's one part of the black world of the US government that is being hidden from Congress, hidden from some presidents I know.
Yeah.
Working on retrieved alien, non-human technology.
Yeah.
It's being kept from the knowledge of the American public. And yet they're being funded
with taxpayer dollars, billions of taxpayer dollars. This is the big, think of it. Oh, it doesn't sound right, does it? But you probably
that same story around a number of other things that have nothing to do with alien.
Doesn't make the exciting things. The thing I find breathtaking from what you're saying is you're saying
somebody who's come from that black world, screw the secrecy. I'm going to say it a little differently. The monopoly the U.S. government has on the subject matter is not respected by the non-human intelligent spirits. Again, the skies are not classified.
Ultimately, why I feel safe, why I feel optimistic about the future, is I know
the NHI is guiding us that way.
The implications of what you're saying also
Potential there is some kind
of capacity to draw incredible amounts of
voice from the ice. There's also obviously the capacity to use functional systems that far beyond that things first is anti-gravity. And remember, anti-gravity zero-point energy, those symptoms have been suppressed from our knowledge. I've seen demonstrations recently that
The government doesn't have a monopoly on this. They have, while they have no but that time is changing. Independent progress is happening right now. And that's why I'm so confident. You don't need to rely on their body of lack of evidence. Let's say. You don't need to rely on it. I can see it, but the shift has already happened. There's people in Silicon Valley and around the world that are so financially independent, so intellectual, yes, so emotionally, psionic. Things, but we still have to work through that.
Do you
think us
about their existence?
Yeah.
Great. That's a really important interview. And I'm glad to hear that progress is being made outside of our government by venture capitalists who are working on trying to find uses for this technology. And I'm especially encouraged by the fact that he says he's heard or seen examples of the use of zero point energy, which in my view is our best shot at finding a new energy source that will get us away from this paradigm that we've been stuck in of using fossil fuels that many believe, I believe, a lot of climate scientists believe are contributing to global climate change. So that's really encouraging. And it's a reason that I think that every organization on this planet that touts itself as being trying to protect the environment. These are organizations like the Sierra Club, the Nature Conservancy, Greenpeace, etc. All of those different organizations should be paying very careful attention to what's going on with UFO disclosure and demanding that those energy technologies be put to use to get us away from the use of fossil fuels and into a new energy paradigm.
What did you say?
So I had just witnessed something that was unbelievable to me, and I turned to talk to my friend. That was
What did you say? What was it?
so the beginning of the show, if you will. This thing popped up way out in the atmosphere, and it started to fall. And it fell like if you imagine putting a pebble, a really small pebble in water, and it just kind of flutters around. That's what it was, just fluttering. And as he got closer and closer, it was brighter and brighter. So when it hit the very bottom of its movement, it was the brightest thing out there. Just couldn't imagine. Brighter than any star you see that, just lit up. It did that for, a millisecond, and then it dimmed back down, and it did the same movement all the way back out into the atmosphere. My jaw was on the ground, and suddenly out loud. All this. How do you search this?
because I couldn't believe it. How do you think that there's no UAV that does it?
There's no light around.
I think the filter on the thing about it is like this. I didn't think I can believe that. That's like turned on. Oh, it's so I love it. So, oh my God.
This is what it is. And then he's talking to me, and then he stops. He said, "Oh my God, it's the mothership." He said he's only seen it two.
Like this
Massive triangle was in the sky.
These all have to figure out how it was a hell of a lot. It's huge. I'm just sister.
Probably
It was football field size?
bigger,
Multiple football fields?
for sure.
Wow.
The
How far away?
I couldn't tell you. I had already been shocked and all with this one little photo, and now they presented this massive thing with other little things going on as well.
Like what?
So the triangle itself, it was moving. It was moving very slow. The lead point of the line is very clear. See red dimmer.
So there are lights.
Correct. There are lights on the. No, they remain the same brightness the whole time. They were white.
Noise?
No noise. It had little minions, if you will, flying all around it.
Orbs.
Yep, orbs. It would have been the same orbs that we see all night that just kind of float around the sky. Sometimes they pulse, sometimes they just remain the same and move. Same ones, but now they're spiraling around this thing.
So really interested to ask, did you at that moment, obviously, I think I would have had a feeling of awe, but did you have a sense of some kind of psychic contact with the object?
I mean, I don't know, because I was so paralyzed with what I was seeing. I just could not, again, saying out loud, how do you fake this? I could not comprehend what I was seeing.
It was a solid object?
Yes.
Okay. Could it have been some kind of temperature inversion in the air? Was it a cold night?
It was a cold night. Yeah, it was.
So was it a clear night? Could you?
It was absolutely clear, yes.
So is it possible that what you were seeing was some kind of optical illusion?
If it was, we were sharing it. There were two of us that shared that optical illusion.
Your
throughout the night, this exam.
Everything that we saw, like, this is a good sign. It's going to be a big night.
So, as we know, and as Jake has disclosed, this is what has been happening secretly in various secure installations around the United States for apparently quite a long time. I find it sad that the knowledge of this has been kept from humanity. It's beautiful. I mean, I don't want to sound like a hippie or something, but it's fantastic. The idea that it's possible to psychically connect with an intelligent entity of some kind.
Correct. And I think it's going to lead, maybe potentially, we haven't talked about it, but maybe it leads us back to the way we were when we were in touch with ourselves.
What do you think about the fact that this is being kept so secret?
I mean, it would make life a lot easier. We wouldn't be very dependent on much when it comes to what we.
It's a good thing
People have a right to know that we're not alone.
Yeah, I think they have a right to know, then they have the option. They can choose. Whatever, but it's still our choice. Like, we should have the option of whether I want to pursue this or not.
Now, I understand you're part of the Skywatcher team that's going to try to provide the service that's being done secretly in the military in private enterprise.
Correct, yeah.
Are you excited about that?
Always. It's always exciting. It's always something different, but yes.
From what you've seen, will it work?
Seems so. We had some pretty good luck, if you will, so far. But interesting enough, it seems that a lot of these things that people are talking about is true.
The implications of what you're saying, though, Fred, are absolutely mind-blowing.
Good.
I don't think things out of this
Day-to-day mundane stuff, and
that's what that's what
do by doing this.
Seems like we can.
Do you know, it's funny, there have apparently been some people who've done the wrong thing, some bad apples along the way. Perhaps the biggest sin, it's the most exciting one, that it's possible for all humans potentially to do this, that we can all learn how to do this. And it's fascinating to see how touched you are and Jake is by what is obviously
it's very exciting. It's something that is for the never from probably the right to go through to get us over from starting from war and need for those that would need to back
But tell me if I'm taking this too far, but I mean, you're a warrior, you're a trained warrior.
There's a mix of them.
To hear a warrior talking,
Well, thank you, Fred Baker, for coming forward. I certainly agree that that we need more people involved in this. We need people to choose to pay attention to this, to engage with it, to unite our voices in calling for more openness and transparency about all of this from our government. And I promise you that this summer, my circle of people will be out at night trying to do just this. HICE, what they call HICE, or human initiated contact with extraterrestrials. I think it's worthwhile to try to do that. I mean, even if you don't see a craft, at least just sort of telepathically letting them know that you're interested, that you would like to make contact, that you're aware of their existence, and that you're not threatened by it, might do some good, you know? So that's my plans.
Well, when you're read in fully to just how much is known, how many various types of crafts and beings, I would say, that's what I would refer to NHI as. That's my aha moment. It's not getting handed the gun. It's told the details of this is a lot bigger thing than even you who has experienced the same things on your own, buddy, it's bigger than you could even imagine.
The overwhelming sense I get from you and all the guys,
we've accomplished. This is incredible.
Yes. Again, I'm a patriot. I'm a person of faith, and I'm worried for my kids' future. This is interesting. I like being interviewed. None of it's important to me, and my children are their future. And we're in a very, very dangerous time in history. You asked me about our government and how our own legislative branch is supposed to have oversight of things, and it's failing. It's non-existent. When you have the only few people that seem to be read in are those who want to suppress it. Else is nothing to see here. Well, that doesn't give me hope for my children's future. What gives me hope is the people like Jacob who are willing to risk everything. So, yeah, no, not only is it real, I've been involved in it for decades at great personal risk to his health, his wealth, and his well-being. It has could have cost him his life on a number of occasions, cost him his health, and now he's risking his entire life and livelihood to share this. So I hope all those people that watch this and that they doubt take into consideration what does we not risk to share this with you. Why would they do that? There's a lot to lose, and the only thing to gain is the betterment of mankind. I would not myself have used this if not asked to come forward and say anything like that. People can't, they don't in their day-to-day lives realize what he's risking, as opposed to a normal asset. Normal assets are not, they don't have multiple diseases. One of their greatest allies is their anonymity, because if you're a person who moves, everybody wants something. One of the greatest assets up to now,
Nobody who meets him thinks that he's a multimillionaire, that he's involved with all these things and other things. Really interesting.
true benefits. Yeah, he plays music. He and I have had our share of bouts, bad ability, martial arts. A very interesting dude. He's got a very prestigious medic that trained with me in martial arts way back in the day, with the military and since. He's actually trained with world-renowned instructors. He's given up and risked and quite a bit for this. And if it wasn't for knowing his character and why he's doing it, the amount of a whole different person watching this would realize how much he's risking to share this knowledge.
It's good. It's
Very good.
people.
How they respond to David, how they respond to me when I was on it. And because it's punctualized, I know some of these people, I don't know much. So I have to do the same thing that your viewers will do. Well, is this person legit or are they full? You can tell. I do know this though.
Those who are, all of those who are disclosing
Free access to credit them to
health, to call them a liar.
I believe a high-level military official came out later and said, no, well,
Zonda was in charge of exactly what he said he was in charge of. You can believe what you want about everything else he says. That was his position.
he did that job. So these people are risking so much when they do this. I think that that's the epitome of evil. When you have members of your own
community, your own military, your own government, your private
organization that are attacking, engaging in character assassinations, potentially having people killed, that's a horrible thing.
No,
not
And with that, it's been slipping away. So hopefully, getting some of this information out and making all of this, bringing all of this out into the light of day is going to help restore some of what we think of as our democracy. This is an important message from Dr. Stephen Greer.
Now, the actual ET beings that often are on these craft, they often do get killed or they get captured. And I've been told by many of these special forces guys who've been in these bases that there's a number of them still in captivity, which they euphemistically call, I like the wordage they use, to sort of whitewash what's going on, refugees. Well, they're not refugees. They've been captured and they're prisoners of these aggressive military corporate. So those need to be liberated. And we're working on that through a group of special forces, which I can talk a little bit about. Now, the CE5 contact is not geared towards any self-aggrandizing purpose. It's not to give you entertainment because you saw a UFO. It's not to get their technology so we can reverse engineer it and then beat the shit out of the ETs with it, which is what the military and corporate programs have done for 70 years. It's to make peaceful contact and develop a deep relationship between humanity, our species, and their civilizations, plural, of which there are many, for going forward in a time of not just world peace, but universal peace. That's why our motto is one universe, one people. And the foundation of universal peace is not shooting each other out of the sky so we can be the big monkey and figure out how to get technology. That's not it. It's to create a future where we do have the technologies. We already have them. We don't have to keep shooting them down. That would run the planet with 0 point energy and free energy and no pollution. and in a generation eliminate all the suffering and poverty on the planet, create huge new advances in medical healing system, all kinds of positive. And the ETs want that. But we don't have to kill them. We don't have to capture them. We don't have to hijack their aircraft, their NHI craft, and we most certainly don't have to hit them with weapons to bring them down. This is not the way to do this. Absolutely not. It's immoral. It's dangerous. Now, let me pivot for just one moment. This will disturb you. You may not sleep tonight. And I've known this for some time. But in the last 2 years, I've had 3 separate people who have been in comm centers, communication centers, classified bases, that have told me there has been intercepted communications from NHI, that they're just about fed up with that nonsense of us targeting them, damaging them, captivating their people, and doing this in a kinetic, meaning violent. Kinetic is another euphemism in the military. Just kinetic is just, casualties and destruction, violence, manner. And then the problem is, because we have these advanced technologies that are psionic and technological, our craft, the ones that we have that are man-made, have pretty much reached almost an indistinguishable level with the NHI craft. But by using this technology in an aggressive military and corporate way to simply get more and more of their stuff, their goodies, their technology, which is what all the billionaires want, right? Because they only think one way. How do I become a trillionaire if I'm a billionaire? That's all they can do. These civilizations out in space are absolutely fed up with that. And let me be clear about this. This is a warning and it is a threat. If we stay on that path much longer, the dangers to peaceful civilizations out in space and other transdimensional space-based civilizations is that it is untenable. So we're at a crisis and we have to fix it. And the way we're going to fix it is to stand down completely those aggressive weapon systems.
So I've written down there at the lower right that the non-human intelligence has every right to defend themselves against U.S. military aggression. I totally believe that, and I don't believe that because they invade military airspace or controlled airspace or what have you, that's a justification for trying to bring them down with force. And I think that the consequences of that could be severe. This quote that I put up in the notes there from the previous Canadian Minister of Defense, Paul Hellyer, the United States military are preparing weapons which could be used against the aliens, and they could get us into an intergalactic war without us ever having any warning. Well, Paul Hellyer said those words, I don't know, it was at least 10 years ago, and I think probably 15 years ago. This cover-up has been going on for so long, I just lose track. But anyway, we should really heed what he said and consider having our military sort of mollify their stance and their approach to these non-human intelligences. I don't think that they're threatening us, so let's be a little bit more kind, a little bit more big-hearted, and see what kind of relationships we can develop with them.
Greer, I absolutely do not refute that there are extraterrestrials and that more will be coming out. But out of respect, I will tell you, Dr. Greer is absolutely correct. We will learn more about our friends from other worlds. It's just that this world is the one that's over our sky.
And I don't laugh. I'm in on this story. Dr. Greer, John Ratcliffe appointed head of the CIA. We've got about 20 seconds. Is he friendly to the cause of disclosure?
He is, but he has some entanglements in his works.
So I just included this slide because this General Blaine Holt, U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, is another person that we've heard from recently who's just come out and said it. Yeah, extraterrestrials. He's not going to deny that they're real. And we're going to learn more about our other worldly visitors. This is a trailer from a new film that's coming up. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be shown at the South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin, Texas, sometime in early March. I believe maybe on March the 14th at the Paramount Theater is when this is going to premiere. Have a listen.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species. We are absolutely not alone. Non-human intelligence exists. UAPs are real. They're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I worked on highly classified UAP program.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
The one-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomena.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings. Here we go. The first country that cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
China has established its own version of a UAP task force.
You think for a second that they wouldn't consider using it to achieve their ends of domination?
This is similar to the Manhattan Project. This is the atomic weapon on steroid.
This is so secret. Very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis. But that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful that a government doesn't trust its state, because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for a species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
What else you want to know?
I really think this film is going to help move the needle with the public to start taking a much closer look at what's going on and really start absorbing some of the message that we're not alone and that maybe we can do a lot to improve our situation here on Earth with these new energy technologies, as we just heard Christopher Mellon say. So the Nazca mummies, in my opinion, they are the physical evidence that many people are calling for. Say, you hear people say, well, okay, you say we're not alone. Show me the evidence. Well, I think that this is the evidence. And there was months ago that I contacted Thierry Jamin, who, among others, has performed admirably, really, in a leadership role while making the Nazca mummies known to the public. I asked him to send me copies of the CT scans that had previously been done on several of the Nazca mummies. He quickly and kindly obliged my request. Thank you, Mr. Jamin. Although I am not a radiologist, I've had adequate training and extensive experience throughout my medical training and career that allows me to knowledgeably interpret CT scans. Upon reviewing those good quality CT images and those 3D CT images available at the Alien Project website, I came to the steadfast conclusion that these imaged corpses are of the authentic remains of highly unusual tridactyl creatures, of which there are 3 separate species. In my opinion, the leading hypothesis explaining their origins is that they were genetically engineered. If this is correct, the implications are astounding. It means that these efforts took place at a minimum of 900 years ago, and perhaps as long as 6,000 years ago, consistent with the carbon-14 dating that has been accomplished on several of these specimens. I stand by these conjectures, and I await further information from qualified scientists who are presently studying these interesting bodies of creatures previously unknown to anthropology and to medical science. This is a photo that I took of a ancient Peruvian textile that was recovered from the Nazca region of Peru. And I took this picture at UCLA at the Fowler Museum, where they have a display. It's still there, actually, Taming the Desert: Resilience, Religion, and Ancestors in Ancient Peru. This, in my opinion, is a historical, almost like a document, if you will, or an acknowledgement that these beings, these 3-finger beings, 3 toes, did exist and were revered by the people of that time. And there are many similar examples of this in pottery and other textiles and in petroglyphs that people have discovered around near the Nazca region of Peru. So the time for citizen action is now. Upon viewing this montage of recent statements made by credible people who have direct knowledge of U.S. government legacy programs to recover and reverse engineer alien technologies and even entire craft stemming from a non-human intelligence, we must stop denying this reality. UFOs or UAP exist. They are real, and we are not alone. Covert factions of our U.S. government have known this for decades, and strenuous efforts have been made in highly compartmentalized U.S. government programs to understand, capitalize on, and weaponize these technologies. Aside from the pressing problems each of us face in our daily lives, there are 2 immediate existential threats to our well-being and that of our children and our extended families. These are global climate change, exacerbated by our use of fossil fuels for energy, and nuclear war. How much progress has been made toward understanding the energy and propulsion systems of UFOs, UAP? As responsible citizens, we have a need to know the answers to these questions. Can any of what has been learned about UFOs, UAPs be immediately applied toward replacing our destructive fossil fuels-based energy paradigm with entirely novel and new technologies derived from the study of UFOs and UAP? I think the answer to that question is yes. What do we have to do now? First, we citizens must renounce any further personal participation in promoting the stigma that has prevented the meaningful civil discourse about UFOs and non-human intelligence topics for 3 generations. Second, we must let President Trump and our congressional representatives in Washington know that we have their backs when they openly discuss the UFO, UAP, NHI reality through congressional hearings and in their public interactions with the news media. Third, we must press every nonprofit environmental organization that we normally support to begin applying their considerable political clout toward insisting that our representatives in Congress become proactive in proposing new legislation that protects new UFO whistleblowers and mandates that any currently understood energy technologies derived from the study of UFOs paid for with our taxpayer dollars must be immediately provided to mainstream scientists and academicians around the world for the benefit of all mankind and the biosphere of this planet. Fourth, we must press for international treaties that will govern the acceptable applications of the technologies derived from the study of UFOs and specifically addresses the weaponization of those technologies. Fifth, we must press for international agreements among nations that will formally codify mankind's civil rights and expectations as we enter into this new era of incipient relationships with various NHI races. I want to bring to your attention once again New Paradigm Institute and their initiative called Citizens for Disclosure. I ask that you please give New Paradigm Institute your support. That's their web address there, newparadigminstitute.org. It was founded by the people's lawyer, Daniel Sheehan, and his beautiful wife, Sarah Nelson. It's dedicated to full UFO disclosure and a new era of U.S. government transparency. NPI is dedicated to orienting our society toward a peaceful and mutually beneficial relationship with all NHI races. They're dedicated to preventing the weaponization of NHI technologies. They are dedicated to a worldwide ban of nuclear weapons. And they're dedicated toward reverse engineering NHI energy technologies and using those newly discovered technologies toward ameliorating the global growing climate crisis. So please, I donate monthly to New Paradigm Institute, and I'm begging you to help support them because they're our best shot at getting all of this out into the public and having all of these technologies that are coming out of this used for peaceful and useful and beneficial purposes. Please support New Paradigm Institute.